Hey everyone, welcome to What the Flick, The Young Pope, Season 1, Episode 6, Tim Frisch, Alonso Duralde. Okay, well, let's see. We kick off with some steamy three-way action. That was interesting.
Yes.
Cardinal Andrew...
Dussolier,
thank you, getting into it. Now, is this taking place in Honduras before he leaves, or...?
Well, he goes back to Honduras to say goodbye and to hand off his diocese to
the Monsignor. And
and he says goodbye to his two lovers that we learn about.
Apparently so, yeah. Now that's one of those sermons where it's like, wow, we're really going to say this out loud and in public and in front of people, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, he pretty much cops to the fact that he was kind of a wuss with dealing with the narcotraficantes, and he, didn't refuse to marry their daughters. He would let them give money to the church, and he kind of looked the other way, but he feels guilty about that. But he's saying new guy is going to be tough. I suspect the new guy will probably get shot within a month, but that's just me.
Well, he was relatable. He was a man of the people, and that's why people felt comfortable around him, and that's probably how, why he has these two lovers.
Right.
But he wasn't the hard line, spiritual leader that it looks like the Pope is looking for.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about, the Pope is so doctrinaire and so rigid in a lot of ways and doesn't care who he turns off. I mean, it's 9 months later, receipts are down. The box office is not good for this guy, but he doesn't care. He's sticking to his guns, whereas obviously, Andrew was much more like, I want to be loved, I want to be relatable, I don't want to push you too hard or force you to ask the difficult questions. And Lenny's all about all the difficult questions all the time. Think about them and think about how you're failing God.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I have to sort of wrap my head around the idea of the show giving us this Pope as genuinely this much of a hardliner and a doctrinaire, because I can't escape the notion that this is some kind of long con. That it all boils down to him needing faith in God, and somehow this is a way to summon him, or I don't know. I'm not sure, but I have to sort of try and. I keep in the back of my mind, I've been thinking that surely this can't be what he's really going after. But now it's sort of like, maybe it is. Maybe this is all we get, and this is really how he wants things to go. And he wants the prime minister to ban all abortion and gay marriage and all the other stuff that he wants to get out of him, and that's just the character, and that's what we have to work with.
I still am under the impression that Lenny doesn't have a big picture, that he himself doesn't quite get it. He has the Pope script. He knows what a conservative, regressive Pope is supposed to say, but he's reading it one page at a time, and he's just as interested to see where it's going as we are, knowing that God is in charge of the big picture and the final plan, and it will be revealed to him when it's ready, but he doesn't know.
I keep going back to the dream sermon of episode 1, where he says all the sort of controversial, super progressive stuff that no Pope would ever say, and is that the real Lenny? Is this the real Lenny? I mean, does Lenny know what the real Lenny is?
Absolutely nothing since that sermon, though, has led us to believe
that's
absolutely.
He's been
that's like an anchor we keep going back to. That's just not being proved.
It's been a 180 since then.
Yeah.
But again, it's like the dream versus the reality. It's like, is that revealing his true subconscious? Is that with this again? Or is it like his biggest fear? I don't know.
That's the Pope that you and I want.
Well,
so
sure,
we want good-looking Jude Law to also be that.
But I'm saying that Pope exists in his head somewhere, or he wouldn't have dreamt it. But it's like, but does it exist as a nightmare? Does it exist as his ultimate dream? Who knows? I don't know. Meanwhile, what else is happening? Ester has her baby.
Yes, she does.
Names it Pius. He drops it.
He does drop the baby in one of the most horrifying moments that I've seen on television.
People drop babies all the time.
I have sort of dropped a baby.
It happens.
It's horrifying in that moment.
It'll be a funny story later. You were dropped by the Pope as an infant.
Just like
No, definitely. That was bizarre. But I think for me, really, this whole this episode is about the meeting with the Italian prime minister.
Oh yes, for sure.
Which is just like, and I totally get where the prime minister is coming from. It's like, no, you're slipping. You are losing popularity. Like, now is my time to strike. But
I won't get the pushback from the church that I normally do because you've never been weaker. Your numbers have never been lower.
They don't like you. They're starting these splinter groups, But Lenny does have kind of an ace to play still, in that he has been invisible, and so for him to now show up and then to like throw down like that. Although again, if that gigantic number of Italians didn't vote, I mean, the election would still happen, and he would just have to win a majority of the non-Catholics who were voting, right? I mean, we look at the voting numbers in this country. It's not like, majority ever sways at all. So,
but if Lenny has the numbers that 31% of the people that voted for you are Catholic, and you're going to lose that, I mean, every other candidate you're running against has a certain percentage of Catholics too. Yeah. But if you were appealing directly to Catholics before, if you yourself are Catholic, even with your progressive agenda,
you don't want to lose those cats.
Yeah, you're in jeopardy of not being reelected, and if that's what's really important to the prime minister, you still got to play ball with us.
Right.
And if ball is banning abortion and gay marriage and common law marriage and euthanasia and giving tax breaks to Catholics and having restrictions on Muslims and Hindus and expanding the boundaries of the Vatican, that's crazy. He's got you over a barrel if you're going to do that.
Yeah, no one's going to give him that. So I think that's what you call an opener in a negotiation, I think.
Right, and it seems like what Lenny really wanted to achieve was a stalemate because he knows the prime minister wants to take away from the church.
So he wants to maintain status quo.
Yeah, is how I read it, yeah.
And to keep the tax break they get, obviously. And then Tonino, is that the...
Tonino has gone missing.
Yes, Tonino's gone missing, and the cops are beginning to talk to Voiello about it with lots of soccer jokes for the Europeans. And so I like the idea that, are we to think that the Pope and Voiello and those guys did show up at his house, or that was like a sort of a lunatic vision?
Yeah, no, I think they did.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably one of those things where they showed up in such grand fashion, no one will believe you.
Exactly, yeah. Try and describe this, no one's going to buy it.
They're going to throw you into quicksand? Okay, that's something the Pope would say. Sure, buddy.
Yeah, so every TV season, I think there always has to be like, one police investigation going on. And so now we have ours for the young Pope.
Yeah, I think this plotline is going to be smaller than we anticipated it was going to be. It might even be done at this point. Like, Tonino's gone. They're not going to have like a House of Cards murder investigation.
I don't know that it's going to be the massive thing, but I think because they have talked very specifically about sort of offshoot churches sprouting in the wake of Pius XIII's.
We get the monks showing up saying they're going to have a schism.
Exactly.
If he doesn't resign.
Yeah. I think
they did not have a lot of cards to play.
No, they don't. They got nothing. But I think that they're establishing this notion of these sort of side churches going on, and Tonino being one of the more prevalent ones. I think his disappearance is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, the Pope is literally breaking up the church, is what we're seeing.
Yeah, and again, my thought for a while was that's the long con. Like, I'm going to be the popiest Pope ever and show people how awful that is, and burn this whole thing down.
It could be. That's one interpretation.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't ever see that, though, in his private moments. We see a lot of, like, really interesting, like, I doubt God, I doubt myself, I doubt everything, but not like, hey, man, I'm going to burn this fucking place to the ground.
No, his private moments are racked with doubt and questions and uncertainty. And so, so I don't know how that all plays through. What else, notes, man?
We touched on Andrew Dussolier and that he is bisexual.
Oh, and the young priest.
Right. So he is literally in charge of enforcing that priests aren't gay and priests keep their vow of chastity, which is like the ultimate hypocrisy for himself now.
Of course, and which is being based solely on Rorschach blots. I mean,
and entrapment for priests after they're released from the. Seminary.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So all the more hypocritical now that we know that he had fascinating things happening in Honduras.
Sure.
Yes. But he's stuck being the hatchet man.
And we see him and his, I guess, assistant have to dismiss a young priest hopeful.
Right.
Angelo Sanchez.
Do we think, since the what Lenny knows is always like the big topic of conversation, do we think Lenny knows about Andrew's extracurriculars in Honduras?
I would guess so, and that this is him saying, hey, this shit's not okay, and I'm going to show you that it's not okay by making you enforce it.
So then does this underscore the theory that Gutierrez might himself be a pedophile, and that's why he's pushing him onto the Kurtwell case?
That is a good reinforcement of that idea that I think
Although,
I had
interesting,
last week.
you and Bibbs talked about this, and I had a totally different interpretation. That the scene where the Pope and Voiello were talking about Gutierrez, and he's also, I know. I thought what that conversation was about was that Voiello was going to say, Gutierrez was spying on you for me and reporting to me everything that you told him, and the Pope would be like, yeah, I already know. Like, that was my interpretation of that, but y'all's was more interesting. So.
Yeah, and I think it could be both. I think Voiello could not know Gutierrez's deepest, darkest secrets, but the Pope does, and he knows he's spying on him.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. We also, I think that if Andrew thinks that his proclivities are a secret, they're not as much a secret as because we see the Contessa approach him at dinner and say, hey, come to a party with me and my husband. It'll be great. All my girlfriends will be jealous.
Yeah, word gets out. I mean, he's, like, look, if you're a priest who's, under 50, like, that's...
And swings hard.
Yeah, clearly, like that, you're catnip. Are we supposed to get the impression that Angelo is committing suicide or considering it, or does he do? That last shot is so weirdly lit with the kids throwing those things in the air. I couldn't really even see what was going on.
Sorrentino surrealism.
Totally, yes. But I mean, was there a leap in there that I missed? Like, is that why the music stops? Like,
you didn't see the body fall?
No, okay,
the body
that
for
was
sure
like,
fell.
all
For
right,
sure.
Okay. That was I assumed.
And you hear the thud. I mean, I watched the show late at night because my wife's already asleep, so I got the headphones on.
Oh, all right. Well,
you hear the thud.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Then you're getting it more than me. All right. So this is. So now we have a Pope with blood on his hands.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they all do, but whatever. That's another story.
The last thing is that we learn, and I don't know how important it will be, that Sister Mary is also herself an orphan.
Yes.
She has that little scene, which could be a little throwaway scene, or it could show deeper things. We see young Sister Mary playing basketball,
right?
And everyone is very tempted by her ankles.
Yes, indeed.
I guess.
It's I don't know what we're supposed to make of the orphan revelation necessarily. Although I think maybe it's the fact that she tells Andrew and not Lenny that is, I think, maybe the most important aspect of that.
I think Diane Keaton's about to be a much bigger player on this show. I think they've been holding back, and
I hope so.
They're ready for her to take some action as far as Lenny is concerned.
Yeah, well, she's certainly in the position to do so, and she knows where all the bodies are buried. All right, we'll be back Monday with more Young Pope.